I the asshole for refusing to split the cost of a new fence after my new neighbors tore mine down while I was on vacation? So, I, a 34-year-old woman, live in a quiet neighborhood that's slowly being gentrified. People are buying up the older, worn-out homes, tearing them down, and building these huge modern houses that go right up to the property lines. My house is nothing fancy, about 1,000 square feet, and it used to belong to my grandmother. It's definitely on the older side, but it's home. The house next door was bought recently, and the new owners tore it down and built a 3,000 square foot mansion on the same lot. This thing takes up the entire fifth of an acre, leaving them with basically no yard. That's fine, I guess. But their big complaint after moving in was about my fence. It's old and a bit rusty, but it works. I have 2 dogs, and it keeps them safe and contained in my yard. Plus, I can't afford to replace it right now. It's not a priority for me. Last week, my partner and I went on vacation. When we came home, I noticed something off in the backyard. The fence was gone, completely gone. Not only that, but my flower beds along the edge of the property had been destroyed too. And my 2 apple trees had been trimmed to the point where they were not much more than sticks sticking up out of the ground. I was livid. I went next door to ask what happened, and the new neighbors casually admitted that they took down the fence because it was an eyesore and ruined the view from their fancy new home. Now, there's no HOA in our neighborhood, so they have no right to tell me what I can or can't do with my property. They suggested that I put up a new fence that's more modern and offered to split the cost. But honestly, after they tore down my fence without even asking, I'm not interested in spending a dime with them. To make matters worse, they've been pretty terrible neighbors from the start. Here are a few things they've done since moving in. Constant noise. They host loud parties almost every weekend, blasting music until late at night. I've asked them to keep it down, but they act like I'm ruining their fun. Parking drama. They have multiple cars but limited driveway space, so they often park in front of my house, making it difficult for me to park in front of my own home. Entitled attitudes. They make passive-aggressive comments about my house being an eyesore in the neighborhood, like it's my fault I'm not building a mansion next to theirs. I'm furious that they took matters into their own hands while I was gone. It's going to cost me money I don't have to fix this, and they're acting like they did me a favor. I don't think I should have to replace the fence at all. They tore it down, they should put it back up, plain and simple. But now I'm wondering if I'm overreacting. Am I the asshole for refusing to split the cost of a new fence and insisting that they buy me a new one? What would you do if you were in my shoes? Update. Things have gotten worse with the neighbors, but now I have the upper hand. So after my original post, things took a turn for the worse. The neighbors weren't happy with my refusal to replace the fence they tore down. Instead of apologizing or offering to fix it, they hired a surveyor to dispute the property lines. They claimed that the fence had actually been on their property all along, so they had the right to remove it. This couldn't possibly be true. When we installed a small pool in the backyard 2 years ago, we had our lot surveyed. There was no issue then, so I knew something wasn't adding up. I decided to hire my own surveyor to double-check everything. Well, guess what? Not only was my fence on my property, but their garage was actually built 1 foot over the line into my yard. That meant they had no right to touch my fence, and per the law, they now had to replace it. But even better, I had the right to make them move their garage because it was illegally built on my land. And let me tell you, I so choose to make them move it. Once they realized the situation they were in, they tried everything to keep me from forcing them to demolish the garage. First, they threatened legal action, which had no legs to stand on. Then they tried to bribe me with cash and favors. When that didn't work, they cajoled, begging me not to ruin their dream home. Here's the kicker. Their garage wasn't part of the original house design. They hired a crew to put it up after they moved in, and it turned out that the builder they used, a cousin of the husband, didn't get the proper permits or do a survey. They cut corners, and now it was coming back to bite them. Not only were they in the wrong for tearing down my fence, but they were also illegally building on my land. Last week, the demolition started, and I can't lie, it was one of the most satisfying moments of my life. I sat on my porch with a steaming cup of coffee, watching as the wall of their beloved garage was torn down, moved, and rebuilt 1 foot back, where it should have been all along. They also had to replace my fence, the flower beds they destroyed, and even the trees they trimmed and killed in the process. All in all, I think it's safe to say that karma did its job. Moral of the story, don't mess with your neighbors, especially if you don't know where your property lines are.